The rain fell heavy over the city of New Arcadia, where humans and elves had lived together for nearly 200 years. The alliance between the two species had started after the Great Collapse, when Earth's old governments fell and new societies rose from the ashes. The elves had arrived from a dying dimension, refugees seeking shelter, and humanity had opened its doors. Commander Sarah Chun stood at the window of the military headquarters, watching the dark clouds gather over the skyline. Something felt wrong tonight. The air carried a strange weight that made her bones ache. She was 43 years old, a veteran of 3 border conflicts, and her instincts had never failed her before. Behind her, the door opened without a knock. She turned to find 2 figures standing in the doorway, their pale silver hair catching the dim light. Lyrian and Thera, the Elven twins who served as advisors to the Human Military Council. Their eyes, the color of liquid moonlight, held an expression Sarah had never seen before. Fear. Lyrian stepped forward first. His voice trembled when he spoke. He said that they needed to talk immediately. Something terrible was coming. Thera moved beside her brother, their movements perfectly synchronized as always. She added that they had received a warning through the old channels, the telepathic networks their people had abandoned centuries ago. Sarah felt her stomach drop. The twins rarely used their telepathic abilities. They considered it a private matter, something too intimate for casual use. For them to mention, it openly meant the situation was serious beyond measure. She asked them what kind of warning they had received. Lyrian closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they glowed faintly with an inner light. He explained that the Keth Collective had been watching Earth for decades. Their scout ships had been mapping human settlements, studying human weapons, learning human weaknesses. And now they had finished their preparations. Tyra continued the explanation. She said that the invasion would begin at midnight sharp. Not approximately midnight, not around midnight, but exactly at the stroke of 12. The Keth were obsessed with precision. They believed that perfect timing brought perfect victory. Sarah checked her watch. It was currently 9:37 in the evening. That gave them less than 3 hours to prepare for an alien invasion. She asked how many ships they were talking about, how many soldiers, what kind of weapons. The twins exchanged a glance, communicating in that silent way they had. Lyrian answered that the initial wave would consist of approximately 50,000 ground troops supported by 200 atmospheric fighters. The Keth intended to capture New Arcadia first because it served as the symbol of human-elven cooperation. They wanted to destroy that symbol and break the spirit of both species. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. 50,000 troops was a significant force, but New Arcadia had a garrison of 12,000 soldiers and another 30,000 civilians trained in basic combat. The real problem would be the air support. Human aircraft were powerful, but they had never faced alien technology before. She asked the twins why their telepathic network had received this information. Who had sent the warning? Thyra's face grew sad. She explained that the message came from Elven prisoners held aboard the Keth flagship. The Keth had conquered their original dimension before the elves fled to Earth. Some of their people had been captured and enslaved. Those prisoners had risked everything to send this final warning. The weight of that sacrifice hung in the air between them. Sarah straightened her shoulders and made her decision. She told the twins that they would fight. They would defend New Arcadia and everyone in it. But she needed them to do something important. She needed them to spread the warning to every elven community on Earth using their telepathic abilities. The humans would handle the military response, but the elves needed to know what was coming. Lyrian nodded solemnly. He said they would do it, but he also wanted to fight. Their people had been running from the Keth for too long. It was time to make a stand. Thera agreed with her brother. She said that humans had given their people a home when they had nothing. The elves would not hide while their friends fought and died. Sarah felt a surge of gratitude and respect. She told them to spread the warning first, then join her at the defensive perimeter. They would face this enemy together. The next 2 hours passed in controlled chaos. Sarah issued orders through every communication channel available. Military units mobilized across the city. Civilians were evacuated to underground shelters that had been built decades ago for exactly this kind of emergency. Defense systems powered up, their targeting computers scanning the dark sky for threats. General Marcus Webb arrived at the command center just before 11. He was an older man with gray hair and scars from battles fought long before Sarah was born. He asked her if she believed the Elven warning. She told him that she did. The twins had never lied about anything in all the years she had known them. And besides, her gut told her that something bad was coming tonight. Webb studied the tactical displays showing troop positions around the city. He said that the brass in Central Command thought she was overreacting. They wanted her to stand down and wait for confirmation. Sarah asked him what he thought. Webb smiled grimly. He said that he had learned to trust field commanders who trusted their instincts. He would support her decision. At 11:45, the first reports came in from orbital observation stations. Unknown contacts were entering Earth's atmosphere at high speed, hundreds of them. The contacts matched no known human or elven vessel designs. Central Command stopped questioning Sarah's judgment after that. The Keth fleet descended through the clouds like metal locusts, their ships angular and dark against the storm-lit sky. They moved with mechanical precision, forming attack patterns that human pilots would need years to master. And at exactly midnight, not a second before or after, they began their assault. The first wave of plasma fire struck the outer defensive barriers, sending columns of flame into the night. Human soldiers returned fire with everything they had. Railguns thundered, missiles streaked upward, and energy shields flickered under the strain of continuous bombardment. Sarah watched the battle unfold from the command center, issuing orders and adjusting tactics as the situation demanded. The Keth were good. Their weapons were powerful and their coordination was flawless. But they fought like machines following a program. They had no creativity, no ability to adapt when things went wrong. The humans, on the other hand, improvised constantly. When a defensive position was destroyed, soldiers fell back to secondary positions without needing orders. When Keth fighters exploited a weakness in the air defense network, human pilots invented new formations on the spot to counter them. Every small victory came from someone thinking faster than the enemy expected. Lyrian and Thyra rejoined Sarah at the command center just after 1 a.m. They reported that the warning had spread across the planet. Elven communities everywhere were mobilizing to support human military forces. Ancient weapons that the elves had brought from their home dimension were being unpacked and prepared for battle. Sarah asked what kind of weapons they were talking about. Thyra smiled for the first time that night. She explained that Elven technology worked differently than human machines. It was based on focused willpower and emotional energy. When enough elves concentrated together, they could generate shields that no plasma weapon could penetrate. The twins led a group of 200 elves to the city's central plaza. They formed a circle, held hands, and began to chant in their ancient language. A dome of silver light expanded from their circle, growing until it covered the entire downtown area. Keth weapons fire splashed harmlessly against the barrier, unable to reach the buildings and people below. The Keth commanders had not expected this. Their invasion plans had been based on intelligence gathered over years of observation, but they had never witnessed Elven group magic before. The elves had been too cautious to display such abilities while they thought they might be watched. Human forces used the opportunity created by the Elven shield to launch a counterattack. Strike teams hit Keth landing zones, destroying supply ships and killing officers. Fighter pilots adapted to enemy tactics and began scoring kills against the alien craft. Ground troops held their positions with a stubbornness that seemed to confuse the precision-focused Keth. By 3 a.m, the invasion had stalled. The Keth still held several districts on the city's outskirts, but their advance had stopped completely. Their losses were mounting faster than their commanders had predicted possible. Sarah received a communication from the Keth flagship at 3:22. A synthetic voice demanded to know why human forces were not surrendering according to psychological projections. The Keth had studied human history and believed that humans would collapse under overwhelming force. They did not understand why these humans continued fighting despite heavy casualties. Sarah answered the Keth commander directly. She told them that they had made a fundamental error in their analysis. They had studied human history, but they had only seen the times when humans gave up. They had not paid attention to the times when humans refused to quit. And those times, she explained, were far more common than the Keth realized. Humans were not logical creatures who calculated odds and surrendered when the numbers looked bad. Humans were emotional beings who sometimes fought harder when the situation seemed hopeless. They drew strength from each other, from their families, from their friends, from their principles. And tonight, they were fighting for more than just their own survival. They were fighting for their Elven allies who had become family. The Keth commander did not respond to her message. But at 4:17 in the morning, the enemy fleet began withdrawing from the atmosphere. They had lost nearly a third of their ground forces and a quarter of their aircraft. They had captured nothing. They had conquered no one. Sarah stood on the roof of the command center as dawn broke over New Arcadia. The city was damaged but standing. Fires still burned in some districts, and the death toll would be significant when final counts were made. But they had survived. They had won. Lyrian and Thyra joined her on the roof. The twins looked exhausted from the effort of maintaining the magical shield for hours. Lyrian said that the Keth would return eventually. They were not a species that accepted defeat easily. Thyra added that the elves would be ready when that day came. They would stand with their human friends again. Sarah put her arms around both of them. She told them that they would face whatever came together. Human stubbornness and elven magic made a good combination. The twins laughed softly, the sound carrying hope into the morning air. Below them, human and elven citizens emerged from shelters to survey the damage. Soldiers from both species helped each other search for wounded. Children who had been born on Earth, some human and some elven, played together in the rubble while their parents worked. The alliance that the Keth had tried to destroy had only grown stronger through the night of battle. The Keth had believed that perfect timing and superior firepower would bring them victory. They had not understood that the true strength of any society came from the bonds between its people. Humans and elves had built something worth protecting in New Arcadia, and they had proven that they would protect it together, no matter the cost. Commander Sarah Chun smiled as she watched her city come back to life. The invasion had begun at midnight sharp, just as the telepathic warning had predicted. But the defenders of New Arcadia had written their own ending to the story, and that ending was victory.